Hello everyone. Well, in today's presentation, we will be talking mainly about Extranet, like what it can do for the organizations. We'll also talk about like how SharePoint can be leveraged to cater the requirements of the Extranet, to cater the requirement for different segments of organizations, to cater different type of requirements within. And for that matter, we will start off with Extranet, like what it does, why we need it, who all can be facilitated with Extranet, and why SharePoint should be leveraged for Extranet. In the end, we will also talk about the sample or the ideal architecture for Extranet. We will also talk about some common issues which can be catered in Extranet using SharePoint environment. All right, to start with, we'll just like to tell a little about like our organization. We at eDynamic, like we are over 10, 12 years old organization, and we have well over 200 clients worldwide. Our primary focus is on digital marketing and web content management. We are a trusted brand and have delivered for mid-size to Fortune 500 organizations, and we have experience across multiple verticals like financial services, manufacturing, travel and hospitality, oil, gas, law firms, etc. And we have a global presence in New York, Toronto, Dubai, and New Delhi. Our offering on this beautiful technology starts from application development to customization and integration, and we have been delivering strategy consulting and professional services as well for our SharePoint customers. Our offerings for intranet, internet, extranet, and managed services sits on top of the common layer of infrastructure and governance for all the intellectual property of the organization. All right, so now we will talk about like what is Extranet all about, why do we need it, and who all can be facilitated. Okay, so often we get to hear the terms like contractors, business partners, partner management, partner catalog, etc. But what is the right way of automating the work between the different channels? I would say like it's Extranet because it facilitates you to get your organization's data, the organization's system connected through some external users. And those external users could be contractors, business partners, or different organizations, as a matter of fact. Basically, extranets are basically websites that connects organizations to employees, partners, vendors, customers by providing secure, engaging, and personalized interaction with people, information, applications, and business processes. So, in a way, if you look at it, it is a very, very important, I would say like an infrastructure in the organization that helps in various ways. Now, if you talk about like why do we need extranet and what all ways it actually helps in, are like it reduces the supply chain efficiencies. It reduces the overall cost that we spend on the regular management of contractors. It cut short the paper trail activities in a nutshell. Say we need to manage a contractor, we need to manage some organization, we need to manage some hours for the contractors, or we need to manage some data which another organization is supposed to do for us, like in a form of some documents, or maybe in a form of some say marketing content. We need to finalize some content. So we are currently doing it either through emails or say through some paper trail activity, so we can cut short on it. We can just go through with some automated way that SharePoint has to offer, which also includes the workflow. So it also helps in enabling the mobile capabilities. Like we can access extranet like from everywhere. All we need to do is sort of an authentication. Once we have it, once we have the right set of credentials in place, then we are totally all set. And it also helps in engaging the remote employees. It also helps in collaborating with companies on joint development efforts. It provides or access service provided by one company to a group of other companies, such as online banking application managed by one company on behalf of affiliated banks. You can say that. And there is another feature to it. Like we can always reuse the components of our intranet environment and then can leverage it for the extranet set of users as well. If we have, say, 10,000 users on intranet in the organization, we're not going to have the same number of users on the extranet, right? So we will have barely 1,000 or maybe even less than that on the extranet. But the thing is, can they access the same set of customization if required? Yes, they can. So in a way, if you look at it, extranet reduces the overall cost. It lets you utilize the overall SharePoint business resources with the partners. It extends customer self-service strategies, which is a very important aspect. And mainly, and on top of it, it helps you collaborate with other companies. So who is the audience? Like, who all can be facilitated? It could be organizations, it could be partners, it could be individual experts, it could be vendors, or it could be remote employees. There are situations like where the employee is also a partner. There are situations where partner need to have a look at the company's data internally so that he can further resell your offerings. And for such situations, Extranet fits right into it. Like, it can leverage you with the content that resides on the intranet environment. It can leverage you with the content that should be available only for the internet or for the public-facing website. So it actually collates and collaborates the content and present it to the end user in a way which will enable them to reuse or utilize the data in the best possible manner. So when we talk about the features of an extranet, we talk about search, security, business intelligence, authentication. But are these just the features? No, these are the requirements as well. Like, why we need an extranet? We need to have a collaboration environment. All right, let's go for it. We need to have a secured environment so that we can extend the visibility of our content to a few partners. All right, let's go for extranet. We have a very specific requirement of content management. All right, Extranet can help us facilitating this one in the organization. So all these are the requirements, or you can say are the top features of the Extranet as well. Okay, let's talk a little about the benefits of the successful extranets. It helps you to build the loyalty. It helps you to produce to enhance the productivity. It helps you to reduce the cost and have a pervasive knowledge management, including a successful growth of the business as well. Now, how does it happen, and what all are the key parameters? Are there any challenges? We will talk about it in our few next slides. So these are a few challenges if you look at it: authenticating external users, understanding audience options, securing and retaining intellectual property, complexity capturing exchanges, information logged in legacy application, and cost of maintaining a new system. These are a few challenges if you look at it. Often we get to hear a problem like cost of maintaining a new system. All right, so I already have a SharePoint internet environment. Why do I need SharePoint Extranet? All right, if I'll provision it, then is it not going to increase my overhead of manageability? Am I not going to spend more time on managing it? Do I have to manage it the same way I've been managing my my intranet? I will answer to all these questions in a few slides from now. All right. Now, we have heard about those challenges, like why. I'll just switch to the previous slide once more. So these are a few challenges which I just talked about. And now I will talk about like how SharePoint helps us out to cater to those challenges, like how SharePoint can be best leveraged to cater to all these situations, right from authenticating to the users and then till maintaining to do the overall managed services of the extranet infrastructures. All right, so why SharePoint for extranets? It helps you connect, engage, and optimize. These three are the core pillars of Extranet that resides on top of SharePoint. It helps you to securely connect customers, partners, and suppliers with relevant information and tools. It lets you accelerate interaction with innovation with engaging experience. Optimizes your cost of doing business with a unified platform. So we'll talk about each and every element of it, like connect, engage, and optimize in a sequential way. Under connect, like what exactly do we mean by it? Like what does it connect to? Like what does fall under this category? It secures the access to the system, people, and content in terms of governance. Governance revolves around 3 Ps, people, permission, and policy. So it helps you out to deal with that situation. It easily authenticates. It provides different set of mechanisms for authentication, and it provides ease of use as well. So we'll have a look at it now. So when we talk about the secured content, as an organization look to drive growth, they need to increase collaboration and access to information, but must do so while protecting their assets. Microsoft Forefront delivers comprehensive end-to-end solutions to help protect virtually everywhere and enable secure access virtually anywhere. The integrated portfolio of products helps secure your environment and manage access across data, users, and systems. In a way, if you look at it, the beauty of Microsoft Family products actually empowers the organization to just start using all these applications with which are responsible to cater the higher end business needs with bare minimum customization on other fronts. So if you look at it, here we're talking about another piece of application altogether called Forefront Protection Manager, Forefront Unified Access Gateway. So these are a few things which we and Microsoft recommends if we are going to leverage SharePoint for whatever purposes, like intranet, internet, or extranet. Basically, it helps you to have it empowers you to have a very, very secure and protected environment of the extranet, because extranet actually exposes some of the content to the external set of users. So we need to segregate the content. We need to ensure that the right set of content is visible to the right set of users. I'll talk about that in detail in a few more slides. All right, so the user authentication mode, like often we get to hear terms like form-based authentication or Windows claim-based authentication, which is a very new offering in SharePoint 2010 anyways. So we have to think about different mechanism of authentication for vendors, different one for partner, and different one for the employees. Or as a matter of fact, if we are going to extend the access to different organizations, then the authentication mode will be different altogether. So the new claim-based authentication model, which is now available in SharePoint 2010, and it is very helpful for SharePoint administrators to combine authentication types for improving the end-user experience. You may wish to create and maintain different channels for access by your extranet user groups. The combination of multi-mode and mixed mode deployments helps you to design the right access for your users. So we also talked about, like, it is very easy to use. It empowers the ease of use in the organization if we are hosting extranet on top of SharePoint. So actually, it's all about the customer experience, and the extranet is just a logical extension of the brand. With a wide array of easy-to-use tool and out-of-the-box web parts, the users can easily add content to sites using point-and-click functionality and can still maintain the data security. Additional web parts are also available for a wide range of applications, from key performance indicators to delivering rich interactive experiences with Silverlight, or some third-party applications as well, if required. So if you look at it over here, there is a picture, there is a content editing web part. So you just need to have a sort of a dedicated mechanism, sort of a URL, or maybe a video handy with you, which you can associate over here, because these tools, these web parts, these user controls are readily available from the SharePoint environment. And as a respective text, the one which you need to mention just next to the video is something which you just need to add into there, something which is easily editable. This is a context which you just need to type into it, and it will just start showing up along with the video. So this is just like one small piece of example. It could be a picture, it could be a document repository, it could be a list, or a third party, or a sort of a dashboard. Let's talk a little about how it helps us in engaging or accelerating the interaction and innovation with engaging experience. It makes your content searchable. So when I talk about content becomes searchable, we also need to think about a situation where we will provide a provision where we will provision the users to just enter a few keywords and then initiate the search accordingly. So do we want that all the secured content, all the confidential, the company specific data should also show up in the search result? No. It actually secures the search as well. The search will be limited and will be very much specific to the type of a user who is performing that search. SharePoint search basically enables the users to find the information they need across unstructured assets, like blogs, wikis, presentations, or documents, and structured assets as well, like reports, spreadsheet, and analytical systems. It actually empowers the users to discover and experience the better informed and more agile business decisions with business partners and other internal departments right out of the box. In a way, if you look at it, it's one of the key business enabler for any segment of enterprise. So here on the screen, like you can also see, like there are content navigators with exact counts. Like if you are trying to search, it will let you know like where all you can perform search. Like, all right, so you entered the word gears. So where all the search crawler will figured it out, like where exactly this word lies in. It fits into the web pages. There are plenty of web pages that contains the word gears. There are plenty of Microsoft Word document that contain this word, Excel and PowerPoint as well. And there are connecting partners and customers to reduce and expertise. So if you look at it on the right side, there are a few pictures, few names. So these are a few people, those who, they actually created a content, and that content contained a word called gears. So it narrows down till the author level as well. It gives you the document previews if the document is in a form of a PPT or a Word document. It gives you the preview in a form of a thumbnail, so which is even better. Let's talk a little about collaboration and knowledge sharing. Well, over here, if you look at it, shared document libraries with granular security is something which is available for intranet or internet users as well. There isn't anything new, but the deep down approach, the approach which you can see over here is like it contains the created by column, the published category. The detail level of view is something which we have specifically customized for the extranet set of users. If the user doesn't have the permission to have a look at the created by category or the published date category, these items can be restricted. So SharePoint 2010 provides a full set of tools that will allow your employees to quickly create any kind of extranet site from predefined template inside a single infrastructure to a customized one. This also simplifies site management and publishing of information using one familiar system. And all right, now imagine the ease of administration for the intranet and extranet-based sites together. Like, isn't it beautiful? We don't have to ask anyone to do the extranet-based sites differently. The way administration happens is pretty much the same, exactly like the way it happens in the intranet environment as well. All right, so this is like a targeted experience. This is like a common or a very usual layout of a screen which we get to see on different extranet environment or maybe different intranet. This is like a very regular, very basic view. But here I have just segregated in a form of a user A, B, C. Now here, say user C logs in. And he is logged in, and user C is an external vendor or a resource that signs in. Now, do you think he's going to have the access to each and every content on the page? No. He's going to have a very limited access. In this page of user-generated content and increased participation, employees, partners, vendors, customers are all active stakeholders of your product or services. Like your products and services are a form of the carousels which you get to see in the bottom in the form of 4 square boxes. And companies are looking for interactive channels that allow them to collaborate with each of these audience. When I say that, you can consider that as a content type, which is like a dark gray box on top of it. The more your organization can adapt, the more likely you are to profit from these changes. Like when I say that, if we are having a sort of a governance module over here, if we are having a sort of a people policy and permission-driven module over here, then we can segregate the usage. Then we can define and restrict the usage for each and every user. You get a properly governed content and permissions and policies, and believe me, SharePoint can help in this area pretty well. because this way, like when we are adding a user A, we can assign some permission area to them. Okay, user A will have the access to area 1, 2, and 3. User B will have the access to area 2 only. User C will have the access to A, B, C, and D, all possible areas of the organization. So based on the permissions, user is presented with different set of targeted content, which is a very, very nice feature to have in Extranet, and it is very difficult to obtain unless we are using an application like SharePoint. All right, now let's talk a little about Optimize. It improves the decision making. Now if you look at it, there is a dashboard over here, and this dashboard contains different type of statistics, and on the left side you get to see some analytics, some data, like the data which is shared in the form of numbers and with a very tiny little KPI indicators as well. So SharePoint actually empowers you to collaborate better and make more agile business decisions by providing access to the information your user need when they need it, more importantly. SharePoint Insights capabilities provide a complete integrated business collaboration platform that can empower employees to discover, analyze, and share the right information across unstructured and structured assets. Often we tend to ignore the usage of data dashboarding, or we think it's a way to it's just way too cumbersome, so we tend to avoid getting into it. But with SharePoint 2010 and the inbuilt feature, which is called as Performance Point Services, the Performance Point feature, using that feature, we can transform the data analytics to an interactive and self-explanatory dashboard, and it can help the leadership team or the teams in a way that they can easily read, understand, and can decide on the data which they get to see on the screen. If we have to look at the same set of data in a form of an Excel, it sure will become quite a cumbersome job. But over here, when we get to see something like in a form of a data, in a form of a bar chart, or maybe in a form of a pie chart, then it becomes very easy to read and understand the data. And this is possible using the Performance Point Services feature of SharePoint, which is like readily available. All right, legacy information unlocked. Now, connecting users with the enterprise data, they need to do their job without having to leave the applications that they use today is what SharePoint and BCS is all about. When I say BCS, it's like a business catalog services, which is readily available from SharePoint. This is one feature that lets you do the integration part very easily. So with BCS, you have the capability to connect SharePoint and Office application to an external system, whether it be a line of business system, or it could be a Web 2.0 service, or a custom home-ground application. BCS is a readily available service, as I have just mentioned, and the best part is like we don't really have to pay for any additional cost if we really want to avail this service. And the best part is like there are strings which you can enter into the data, which will bypass the hard-coded security module if really required, and it caters to different segments like customer, partners, and the remote employees, or maybe different organizations as well. Hard-coded security. So if we want to run through the BCS component, it will allow the users to fetch, or rather I should say like to retrieve the data from the internal databases as well. But the data will be published only to few set of users based on the type of permission and governance model we have applied on the Extranet system. Now we'll just showcase a little about the SharePoint Extranet architecture, like what is the ideal architecture. Okay, so over here you can see like there is a DMZ zone where we have SQL backend, indexing servers, web frontend, application servers, and then we have got two environments. On the left we have got internet, and on the right we have got intranet environment where we can see like internal SharePoint users. Each and every single bit of it resides on a common layer of governance. Now, the internal users gets to maintain the data, gets to publish the data on the DMZ environment in the form of a SQL database or on top of web front-end servers. But the extranet users gets a very refined set of access. There is a layer of firewall between extranet and the DMZ zone, and there are different type of authentication modes, like the form-based authentication using SQL provider or LDAP provider or ADAM provider, or the claim-based authentication mode, or it could be a custom authentication mechanism as well. So the internal users becomes a facilitator, becomes the one those who get to publish the data on it. The internet or the external set of users becomes the one those who get to see the filtered data because of the permissions associated with their credentials, and everything sits on a common layer of governance, and we get to deliver on the governance model, on the governance process, considering three elements: people, permissions, and policy. So what all people are coming over on the extranet environment, what all permissions are associated with each and every credentials which are just getting logged on the extranet environment, and what all policies are there for our total extranet set of users. So these are a few deciding set of elements on this governance model for the overall architecture. This is a common UI. This is a common UI of the SharePoint environment. In the normal intranet-based system, we don't get to see the extranet management tab. All we get to see is the user permission, galleries, site administration, look and feel, site action, and site collection administrator. But in the web applications which we usually provision for the extranet users, for the extranet sites, we get to see an additional tab of extranet management, where we get to play with different set of settings like users, roles, invitation, registration, sponsors, etc. So let's just cater to a few very common questions, like how are my users all right, so okay, so we will just continue about like how are the users going to use the extranet environment. Okay, so let's just talk about a common situation over here, some usage scenario. How are my users going to use the extranet? Well, before I continue with this, I'd just like to apologize about the audio problems that we are experiencing right now. We're just trying to figure it out, and we expect that things should be okay from now on. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so how are my users going to use the extranet? Like some scenarios, say basic document collaboration. What is the benefit? Simple, and everyone needs it, and it is readily available from the SharePoint environment. Do we need any customizations for it? Just plain no, we don't need it. The business intelligence features, yes, we need to customize this feature, but only up to some desired levels, only if it is really required. But most of the components for the BI feature as well can be easily configurable from the out-of-the-box SharePoint environment. Customer partner self-service. The features like, say, purchase orders, we just need to issue them. We need to maintain the asset inventory. We need to maintain the pricing catalog. So can we do that using extranet over here from SharePoint? Yes, we can do that but it does require some customization. Of course, the content needs to be provided by the content editors, by the organizations, but the overall content type, the overall container of that content will be customized, will be created as per the organization's requirement. Okay, what type of users will use the extranet, and how do we add those users? So we'll just talk about it in a while now. Like first, let's just take about like what all type of users will use the extranet: employees, partners, customers, different organizations, and how these users are going to use it. Like where exactly their credentials will be stored. Some credentials will be stored on Active Directory. Some will be stored on the external Active Directory, which we usually call partner Active Directory. Some will be stored in the customized containers. But do we need customizations for it? Yes, we need customization for every custom Active Directory or any customized container for the authentication. But for all the Active Directory, LDAP, and SQL, we don't need any customization. These features are just like readily available from the SharePoint environment itself. How will my users are going to be authenticated? My users are coming in from, say, Active Directory or, say, LDAP, custom, SQL. So how are we going to do it, and what are the benefits of it? The benefits are like it's Active Directory is sort of very easy and very basic stuff. Like it's readily available in most of the organization. Therefore, the implementation part is also readily available. The ADFS services, it still uses AD in a distributed user management system. Therefore, some customizations will be required. The LDAP, custom containers, SQL, or ADAM. These are a few authentication mechanisms which are very flexible. So as per the industry trends, what I have seen in last 10 years, people are using the LDAP and SQL authentication mode more than any other mode of authentication. And all we need to do is the configuration for this one. The authentication providers over here are like the default zones, extranet, intranet. All these are different type of zones which are readily available from the SharePoint environment. And the authentication type, the Windows form or web single sign-on, or it could be a claim-based, or it could be a customized. These things will also show up when we will try to assign the authentication mode to each user, which we are whom we are just adding into the SharePoint environment. Okay, user provisioning. How will external users get created? Now, I have a situation, all right, say a company gets to provision extranet on top of SharePoint, and now they are having hard time creating users on top of it. Now they need to know like what are the easiest or the best possible way. We can just create a new user. We can just create a user so that he can get himself on top of SharePoint, so that he can get on top of Extranet and can start using the existing set of content. How do we deal with the situation? How do we deal with the situation if the users wants to reset their passwords? And user auditing, user validation. So all these are a few very common issues we need to address. So SharePoint offers you some very easy to use mechanism, like click on new user, you will be able to create a new user for sure. You will get a sort of a form in front of you. You will just have to fill in the detail, and then new user will be provisioned. So how do we deal with a situation where we need to add the entire group, say IT provision, or we need to enter a group of 10,000 users? How do we deal with the situation? And well, we can actually deal with it, and the best possible way is like we just need to automate things up. We can sit through and start adding 10,000 details into it, or 1,000 as a matter of fact. We can't do that. There are configurations available, there are customizations available, there are some scripts which are available which will let you add the users. But you need to segregate like what all type of users will be added in the Active Directory access mode, or in the LDAP mode, or in the SQL authentication mode. You need to segregate the users yourself, and only then you will be able to associate the authentication mechanism to them. How will sites get created? Now this is another thing. Okay, the environment is provisioned. Now users will be required to create more sites. Will be required to provision new set of content. How do you think like they can do it? Is it easy for them to just create more sites, or do they always have to write to the administrators if they want to just write more or just create more sites? How can they do it? There is an extended web application to extended web application which is like readily available from the SharePoint environment. All you need to do is like you just need to fill in the details over there, and new site will be provisioned. New site creation process is something which is not going to be available for all the extranet users. There are going to be a few set of users who will actually get to own the site area, who will get to create more users for that specific site, who will get to do the overall records management and site auditing as well. Not every single person on Extranet will be able to create site or make changes to the existing set of data. It's a very specific feature which will be available to a very specific set of users. Now, how will content get protected? Now, there are different concerns to it. Like, all right, so the extranet is provisioned on the SharePoint environment. Now we need to ensure that the content is secured and protected. We don't want to expose our internal or confidential set of data to the external set of users. We can't afford that. We cannot do that. And at the same time, we need to expose some set of data, some level of information which is available only for one type of users, but it's not going to be available for other type of users. Can we do that in the extranet which is hosted on SharePoint? Yes, we can do that. Now, how and what all are the levels where we can do that? There are rights management, there are content types, and there are site or items. Now, site and items could be like the overall site, which we get to see on our screen. The items are the content which resides under each and every site. Content types are like different set of document repositories, different set of lists, or different set of third-party or by default web parts which we have created. Rights management is something which is not just a content type, but it is a mechanism through which you can protect the data on top of site. So these things are like, they all have different set of benefits associated to them. Like site or item protection has got a benefit of easy to implementation. Content types are more granularly controlled. Rights management is the highest level of protection, and for this matter we need some level of customization as well. Like a few slides before than this one, I talked about a system, screen, the environment of Extranet, where user A, B, C, and D gets to access the data, but the data type which they are accessing is different for each one of them. How is it even possible? It's possible because of the different type of authentication mode they have, because of different type of rights associated to them. How to log what users do. How to log what users do. Okay. Okay. Let's Okay, let's talk about how to log what users do. Okay, so there are different ways, like, but before that, we need to understand, like, why do we need to log about what users do? Okay, user A, B, C, D, they are different categories of the users. They all are performing different set of activities on the environment. Now, why do we even need to log, like, what they are doing? We need to log because they are going to be dealing with our data, with our company-specific data, which resides in our internal system. We need to ensure why and what are they accessing. We need to have a detailed report, detailed logs of the analytics, like what all they are accessing, what all files are just being modified, what all data are they uploading for our systems, for our folks internally. So all these things needs to be logged. And how do we log them? There is a process like web SharePoint auditing, which builds in logging and report, which is built on top of logging and report, which is an out-of-the-box and readily available feature. And IMP auditing custom reports, like if we need to audit or if we need to create a custom report in a form of an InfoPath form or some other forms, then what are the top benefits? Like it builds in the more granular form, like the detail level just gets built up. So for that matter, we need to do some sort of a configuration. For rights management, which is like more restrictive and granular, for that matter, we're definitely going to need a lot of customization. So we have to think about like recovery of loss of information. We also gets to point like where we need to involve our compliance team. Okay, these people are uploading these type of data, so how do we govern them? How do we filter it out? How do we let them know like this type of files are not supposed to be uploaded on the SharePoint environment? So for these things, for catering such things, we need to have a sort of a compliance and a regulatory or a governance module associated on top of it, which will help us out by figuring out like what all type of information is being logged, and these logs can help us out figuring it out. How to get rid of content. Site expiration. Simple and built-in. This is like a readily available feature. Content type, which is very granular. Rights management, it expire even when not in SharePoint. So this specific thing requires a lot of customization, and we also need to think about the records management, compliance, and deleting or archiving. How to get rid of the content? It means like once the data is uploaded on the Extranet environment, the data is just being used and it's serving the purpose. It's great, but what if the data is not being used? What is the usage of letting 1 terabyte of data or say even 1 gigabyte of data on the Extranet environment and nobody is just accessing it for say a good 6 months or so? The data is just becoming inaccessible. So I mean, nobody is accessing the data. So what we can do here is like the data, the content can be auto-archived. We can start accessing it as and when required. The search crawlers will work effectively. The search crawlers will be retrieving the details effectively as and when required. But the data will be more on the archive mode. So these are a few things which are readily available from the SharePoint environment. Okay, so possible extranet solutions using the SharePoint. So some of you, some of the guys today on the call will be having the SharePoint intranet systems. Some are just going to use Extranet, or maybe are just using Extranet through some other mechanism, through some other application, and some are looking forward to just continue using or start using Extranet using some hosted environment. So what all are the benefits or challenges? So the current SharePoint resources, if you already have SharePoint running for the intranet internally in the organization, then you can extend it for the external users as well. You can extend it for the Extranet purpose. How and why? Like you just need to create a dedicated web application, need to have dedicated type of licenses in place, and then you are all set. But what are the advantages? It's sort of very simple. It's low cost. Why? Because you have already invested on the hardware and the software cost. All you need to do, you just need to procure you just need to procure the licenses for the Extranet users with a very bare minimum cost, and then can start leveraging the existing set of resources for Extranet purposes. It's familiar. The administrators, those who are managing the intranet, can also manage Extranet environment because the central administration part, the governance part, the configuration part is exactly the same. The unlimited customizations. Yes, you can either reuse the customizations which were hosted on the intranet environment, or you can rebuild some customizations and then can start using on top of the extranet system for SharePoint. So there is no limit to it. You can create a number of customizations. Unlimited data size restriction. There is no data size restriction over there. Like if you have a site collection, say, that contains more than 4 gig or 5 gig of data, and it's just about to touch the quota limit assigned to him, you just need to write an email to the administrator, and if given the option, like, he can always increase the quota from 5 to 6 or 10 or 12 gigs, and then you can continue using it. The data resides in the SQL, and SharePoint just provides you the forefront, the way through which you can enter or access the data. So there is no restriction, no limitation on it. So it's mass and flexible user base. Like the user base is just huge. The internal users can be given the permission to access the data for the extranet, and the extranet users can be provisioned separately as well. Or some users from internal Active Directory can become a part of the extranet as well. So it's like both ways. Reuse and extend the SharePoint features and customization. As I've already talked about it, we just need to procure it once, need to enable those features once, and then we can continue reusing it over and over again. Okay, let's talk about a few advantages in provisioning of SharePoint environment as a fresh SharePoint environment. So it's a completely separate environment. You need not worry about, like, all right, I already have a system, already have a huge and complex SharePoint forms running internally. Now if I'm going to provision extranet on top of it, it will become very difficult for me to deal with it. No. If you are going to provision it separately in new environment, it's even better that the manageability will remain the same but will be segregated. So it's like also helps you out in the greater security modules. Like once the security is implemented in where only the say FBA, like form-based authentication using SQL modes, ADAM mode, claim-based, or any other custom providers are there. So it's like very much segregated and very much granular. And it also helps you out using the SharePoint features, and it also helps you out in the identity management. Like in the new environment, you can always segregate user type A, B, C, and D in a different way. Like user A will have a permission to browse through the content residing on site collection A, B, and C, and user B will have a site. They will have permissions to view the data on different type of sites. So this type of a segregation can also be maintained. Limited level of service and support. So the services and support will be limited, yet huge in a way if you look at it, because services and support will be limited only for the extranet environment, which means that those services are not being used or being utilized by the intranet system. Therefore, the performance will be increased. So if you are planning to leverage the existing SharePoint environment for Extranet, or if you're planning to provision a new environment of SharePoint for Extranet, these two type of environments are not going to have any sort of challenges. However, in the hosted SharePoint, even though it's like a completely separate environment and it involves no hardware or software cost, and it reduces the IT overall cost per year basis, but at the same time it provides a fixed feature set, it provides issues in the identity management, and it provides you the issues like you will always have to renew the licenses like over and over again. Okay, so let's move on to a few questions here. Okay, so we have got a question. It says like, how do we authenticate the external users? Okay, there are different mechanisms. Like, how do we authenticate? There are different mechanisms. One is like we can use the form-based authentication mode for the users sitting externally through SQL, through ADAM. When I say ADAM, it means Active Directory Access Mode Provider, through the custom SQL or custom containers. Using all these different authentication modes, we can authenticate the users for Extranet. Okay, it says, how do we maintain the user profiles? Okay, we can maintain the user profile based on the type of an authentication mode associated on top of it. If the user's data is entered in the form of a SQL, database, and we are using the authentication mode with SQL, then each and everything needs to be entered in that database either manually or through script or through some form. Now, how does it even happen? We need to have a provision through which we can start entering these details, and SharePoint provides that. We can provide these details back into there and back in the SQL database, and this is how we maintain the user profiles, especially for the SQL-based authentications. Okay, we are getting another question here. How does a business catalog services help in managing extranet content? Okay, BCS plays a very important role. Extranet and intranet are two different environments altogether. They will have dedicated set of databases as well in the background. So say if we need to access data which is in the intranet zone, which is in the intranet environment, and we need to just filter it out, need to just tune it up and have a look at it in the extranet environment, then business catalog services comes into the picture. Using the old-fashioned techniques of having in the application definition file, using BDC MetaMan, we create these files, we create these XML strings through which we just pass on the information to that internal source, and we get to retrieve it as well. Yes, in SharePoint 2010, BCS acts both ways. Whereas in MOS 2007, in the previous version, it was only one way. We used to just retrieve the data, but putting it back into the database has always been a problem. But in SharePoint 2010, it just happens both ways. Hope I have answered this question. We are getting another question here. How can we effectively use StoragePoint with Extranet web application? Okay, how can we effectively use StoragePoint with extranet-based web application? Okay, so if I understood your question correctly, me say that how do we specify and use the storage for extranet and not for the intranet or any other application within the same environment. So when we provision the extranet system, when we provision extranet on top of SharePoint, a dedicated web application gets provisioned. And when a dedicated web application gets provisioned, there are three things which are associated with it. One is the governance model, where we need to have like who all can view it, what all they can view it, up to what all level they can view it. Second is a type of database. It provisions a separate database automatically in the SQL environment, and that database is connected with the web application of SharePoint automatically. The synchronization between these two is established with the configuration file. The third point over here is the overall content filtration and content management. So what all content needs to be pushed on the extranet environment, what all content needs to be made available for user type A, B, or C is something which we deploy through the content deployment feature of SharePoint. Like we will have our internal site, or we will have a dummy site through which we will just maintain the data and further publish it on top of the extranet environment. And the data will eventually get stored in the SQL. Okay. We are getting another question here. How do we even govern the extranet environment? Is there a separate governance model required? We already have intranet and its governance plan handy. Okay, the governance plan for intranet and the governance plan for extranet are two separate things. There are going to be a few common elements though, but the major chunk of it will be totally specific to the environment we are talking about. In the intranet-based system, the governance model will revolve around the internal users only. But in the external environment, the governance model will include the external set of users. The governance model will include the internal set of users as well. It will include the content editors. It will include the content publishers. It will also include different segments under the external elements, under the external users, like partners, organizations, employees, or vendors. So it is actually a very granular approach if you look at it. Coming back to the question, how do we even govern the extranet environment? I have just showcased a few screenshots of the SharePoint. Like, it allows you to create a users. It allows you to associate the permission levels with them. It allows you to associate different type of content and areas of SharePoint which they can browse over there. So the governance model will be different, but the way the governance will happen will remain pretty much the same, just like the way we do it in our intranet-based systems of SharePoint. Okay, getting another question here. How secure and effective is the search? Okay, so this is a very good question. We can enter some keyword over there. Actually, just talked about it in another slide as well. So it's like in the search box, we get to type a few keywords. Search results show up. So imagine a situation, I'm entering a word, say Apple, and it retrieves the documents from our internal systems, and those are our confidential set of documents. Just because you entered the word Apple, those documents showed up. So can we go ahead with it? Can we start accessing it? Yes, we can do that. Of course, the document is showing up. We will just click on it and then we'll have a look at it. But should we govern it or shouldn't we? Of course, we should govern it. We should restrict the search. And how is it even possible? It's possible if we are using the search mechanism of SharePoint. The search mechanism, the crawler, needs to be told about the type of users on the extranet environment, and therefore it refines the search results based on the type of users performing the search. Okay, we have got a couple of more questions here, but I guess like we are running short of time now. So we will take up those questions through emails, and feel free to just drop in more questions. We will try to get you the answers in the next couple of days. And thanks everyone for your time today. I will just hand it over to Kamya now. Kamya?
Saurabh. I would like to thank everyone for attending our webinar. I hope you found it informative. The webcast will be available on our website within the next 3 business days, and we'll also be sharing the webcast URL with all the attendees via email. Please feel free to reach out to us at contact@edynamic.net for any questions you may have. Thank you once again. The